If you live around a busy city centre, you might be considering an all-electric scooter, or the Citroën Ami, or for example the Smart EQ42. What about the Carver, which is exactly what we have on review today? It is technically classified as a scooter and in the UK can be driven on an AM licence. Now, prices start from roughly £11,000 and go up to around £16,000 for the S Plus, which is the top spec trim, which we have on review. So let's kick things off and talk about its unique leaning design. Indeed, when you're going around corners, the three-wheeled Carver tilts to provide a more agile driving experience. It's incredibly responsive and makes for an extremely fun ride, especially when you're weaving in and out traffic or taking corners at speed. See it as a blend between a motorcycle and a car. You have the joy of swerving through traffic due to its classification of being a scooter, all while being enclosed in a more protective shell which weathers you from the storm. Now, it is worth pointing out that the bike has 3 driving modes to select from via the instrument cluster. These effectively determine how responsive and aggressive the leaning function is. In sport mode, they're emphasized and therefore you can certainly feel it when you're going around corners, while in normal and comfort mode, the effect is reduced, but still provides you with enough enjoyment when riding around town. Now this brings us on to performance, whereby in the S Plus model you'll find 2 3.5 kilowatt rear mounted motors that output a total of 7 kilowatts. You'll get a total of 200 Newton meters of torque, which allows for an exhilarating feel. The R Plus and the lower spec models have twin 2 kilowatt motors instead, outputting a total of 4 kilowatts of power. This in turn affects the overall top speed that one can attain, which is capped at 28 to 30 miles an hour in the cheaper models, but goes up to 49 to 50 miles an hour in the S Plus. This means that unlike a few of its competitors, it can be taken out of the city. However, you won't want to venture too far, as the Carver has a 7.1 kilowatt-hour battery pack mounted at the rear, which provides a range of roughly 50 miles in the S Plus and around 65 miles in the R Plus, which isn't too far off the manufacturer's claims, which sits at 60 and 81 miles respectively. Now, while its range isn't overly impressive, it is worth considering that a lot of its competitors offer a similar, if not lower range, with the likes of the much larger Smart EQ42 only going slightly further at a tested 70 miles, the Citroën Ami at roughly 40 miles, and a selection of electric mopeds and bikes offering between 30 and 60 miles depending on the battery configuration. So in the grander scheme of things, the Carver is actually rather efficient and actually outclasses a lot of its rivals. Now, much like the other alternatives on the market, the Carver only accepts up to 2.3 kilowatts of input, which means via a regular 3-pin socket, it'll take 3 hours and 45 minutes to go from empty to full. A Type 2 adapter can also be used if you require to plug it in at a public charge point, but just bear in mind that you won't get the faster recharging speeds due to the limitations of its onboard charger. Now, aside from this, it is worth highlighting that the Carver's charging cable is actually integrated within the vehicle itself, whereby it can be pulled out from the rear via a pulley system, like you'd find, let's say, on a lawnmower. It's plenty long and should work for most people, but you might want to purchase an extension lead if you're plugging it in at home and have the cable, for example, trailing out from your window. So moving swiftly on, we get onto its interior, and quite frankly, it won't compete with the likes of the Smart EQ42, but does feel pretty much on par with the likes of the Citroën Ami. Furthermore, you can actually seat up to 2 people. There is a little lever found towards the front seat, allowing you to bring it forwards or indeed taking it all the way back. So therefore, if you don't have anyone at the back, or simply if you just want to crush someone's legs, then you can of course do that. Now, the seats themselves at the front is actually pretty cushiony stuffed, whereas the one at the rear is made out of plastic. So if you're taking someone for a lift, they'll probably want to sit there for a short amount of time. But given the vehicle's electric range, that shouldn't actually be too much of a problem either. Now, as for the front, whereby you've got the cockpit, the steering wheel feels very nice to grip and very much is reminding of, let's say, a go-kart. Then you've got the instrument cluster, which gives you all the right information that you require, and then you've got the stalks. Now, a little complaint we have is that the stalks don't seem to be properly optimized, whereby the light switch does effectively do nothing, whereby it's always going to be on, given like like, let's say, an electric scooter would do. And then you have got the wipers, whereby the singular motion to the intermediate actually doesn't work altogether. You've only got low and high. So it seems like Carver could do a little bit of optimization over here. Now on the flip side, you do have Bluetooth audio, which is great to see, and that's built in. And the speakers actually do sound pretty good. They're positioned at the front, just by where the dashboard would be. Then you have also got a USB Type A port to provide charge to, for example, a smartphone. And then you've also got the heater controls. They're very easy to operate and pretty intuitively laid out. In other words, you have got a level 1 and level 2 switch. Now, aside from all of this, we would like to point out that there is also a small little boot area, which can be actually useful if you're taking, let's say, a very small shop with you. Of course, it won't compete with larger size boots out there. Now, there is also the cargo variant of the Carver, and therefore actually might be more applicable for small business owners who want to go around the city and also take their tools with them. Of course, this might be also of relevance for consumers out there, but we suspect the two-seater variant will probably be more applicable for those people because, well, you can always give someone a lift if needs be, as the cargo variant only has a singular seat. Now, expanding on the subject of comfort, we would like to point out that there is a retractable sunroof, and that is certainly appreciated if you want to draw in some extra light within the cabin, or of course some extra air. If you want to actually further bolster the experience, you might want to go for the sliding windows like we have fitted in our vehicle, whereby you'll be actually able to draw in even more air naturally. Now, you can go for the artificial route, in other words via an air conditioning unit, but we wouldn't really suggest that, as it will effectively suck up some of your battery and take away some key space towards the rear of the cabin. Now, in terms of its design, it'll certainly stand out in comparison to the rest of the crowd. Indeed, we did touch upon its head-turning function when you're going around corners, whereby it leans. Now, in terms of the looks of it, it's available in 4 separate colour finishes, weighs in at 330 kilograms, of course without the rider or any sort of cargo, and the dimensions will be on your screen, so that you can size it up for yourself to make sure that it fits on your drive. And yes, it is very easy to manoeuvre and indeed park, and of course it doesn't have a reversing camera or any sort of sensors, but you're not going to need them. So with all that in mind, it brings us onto our verdict, and quite frankly we can see ourselves thoroughly recommending the Carver, at least if you're looking for an electric motorcycle but want some extra protection, and in this respect this certainly ticks that box. As a result, it gets our Best Buy awards. Now, it's worth considering, however, that some electric motorcycles will come in at a cheaper price point, and equally the likes of the Citroën Ami, although do note that the latter will not benefit of driving within the bus lane, while this can do. Then, of course, you have got the Smart EQ42, which comes in at a bit more of a steeper price tag in comparison to the S Plus, which we have on review, but then will give you a much better interior and, of course, a overall driving experience that will be potentially likened by a lot of consumers. Now, we'd be curious to know what you make of it down in the comments section below. And of course, if you liked this independent detailed review, definitely do consider dropping a like, subscribing and hitting that bell notification, all of which would be greatly appreciated. As such, I've been Chris from TotallyEV, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.